Hello DevOps people, welcome to Full Stack Live, my live coding stream on a Saturday at a new time. From now on I'm always going to stream at 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and welcome. Today I'm going to do some infrastructure automation work, namely upgrading our Chef cookbooks to Chef 13. That's an ongoing effort at the moment, and it takes a lot of time to get everything updated, especially, and I'll be mostly dealing with that today as well, with resolving dependency updates and conflicts. We'll see how far I'll get. This is one of the streams where I don't really know how far I'm going to get. I hope that I can make at least a bit of progress on this project. Speaking of progress, since my last session on Thursday was quite the failure, I spent a few more hours working on my Ruby on Rails API tests and actually found a very good way to resolve the issue. It seems like I struggled mostly with getting the controller request itself right, and thankfully with Rails 5 we got a new type of test for exactly this type of thing, namely request specs, and simply converting my tests to request specs solved this problem that I got the test working in the first place, and it also resolved the issue that I don't know why, was using user sessions for authentication instead of using the HTTP headers that were implemented especially for this use case. So I've actually managed to make this quite pretty, and I'm going to show you what I did. So let's go into my dashboard window and fire up code. So where are we? It's the documentation, spec, controllers, API v1. Yeah, so I wasn't able to get the databases controller spec running with a controller type test, and simply by converting it to a request type, things not only started working, they also became quite pretty to read, because request specs don't work with symbols, they simply use the methods that are introduced by your routes. So I could simply say, okay, send a post to the website databases path, and as usual passing in the ID of the website that I was referring to, and that's that. Worked immediately. I also was able to create a special variant of the post method. I called it API post, and this API post also allows me to pass in a user, and API post, that's in my request helpers here, simply calls post, but with the necessary authentication headers for that specific user. So it uses the user's email address and the user's API token, and that way I don't have to pollute my tests with authentication stuff in any way. I did the same for the other REST verbs, so I have now an API get and an API patch as well. And I've also converted the existing tests to the same way of dealing with things, and that way everything fell into place. It only took me until 1 in the morning to get it running. Hey script 010110, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, so even though Thursday on stream was pretty bad, at least I was able to resolve everything by adding another 3 or 4 hours of work. And at least I can show you now that I was able to get things working. You do love coding. Me too. Welcome to the club. It's not Visual Studio, but it's Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So it's the editor that Microsoft launched, and that's sweeping the lands. People start using it for all kinds of stuff, and if you are frequenting live coding streams, you'll see VS Code a lot of times. I used to use Vim even for my live stream, and all the extensions I get with VS Code and all that stuff made me change to VS Code. However, I still use the Vim extension, so my keyboard commands are actually still Vim based, because I find them so much more efficient than whatever the alternative is. And since I'm often using 60% keyboards that don't have a cursor, an arrow cluster, using Vim mode in VS Code makes things easier as well. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you looking back on my Thursday session. And now let's switch gear and Tmux sessions as well to my chef cookbooks. You want to learn SQL? You mean, is VS Code useful for learning SQL? It's a decent editor. So if you don't yet have an editor you really like, and that's where people are often divided which editor to use. But if there's no editor in particular you prefer, I can recommend using VS Code for all kinds of things. A useful language, definitely. If you are doing anything that's even remotely dealing with databases, with relational databases at least, you should have at least a basic knowledge of SQL. Even though modern development frameworks like Ruby on Rails, which I am using, but everything else like Laravel or the JS-based frameworks as well abstract from pure SQL, having a basic understanding of what the database is actually doing and the commands that your framework is actually sending to the database makes a lot of sense. In my job, where we use these chef cookbooks, by the way, I'm managing a small company running big websites. So we do high-end web hosting for newspapers, magazines, and other high-frequency websites. And when customers come to us and tell us that their websites are slow, or when they tell us all their web application workers are maxed out and busy, and therefore the website can't take any more requests. We take a look at the SQL that they are sending to our databases, and there are things that are completely terrible. So, for example, you see statements that query data across 8 separate tables in the database, and then they query 1 million records, have to sort them by a certain criteria, and then they take the first 5 records or something like that. And seeing that makes you immediately understand that this will take the database ages to collect all the data from the different tables. It has to store them somewhere, and since they are querying thousands of rows, the database has to store the intermediate results on disk, which is always slower. And then it has to sort all the data on disk, only to then take the first 5 records and throw away everything else. So these queries can take many seconds to process, and so knowing what you're sending to the database really makes sense. You don't have to be a SQL wizard. You don't have to be able to optimize SQL queries to the max, but having a basic understanding how selects work, how sub-selects work, and things like that. Go for it. Sorry. Okay, so now what am I doing here? Our whole hosting infrastructure runs on hundreds of servers, and we are using Chef to automate everything. We've been using Chef for almost 10 years now, and our cookbooks are in part 10 years old, and in recent years we failed to update them to current standards, to current versions of Chef, and to update our dependencies where we are using external third-party cookbooks. And so looking at things, we are pretty much quite a bit behind. And Chef 12, which we are still using, is out of support now. And there is even now Chef 15. And so it's really time for us to get up to date. And that's what we focus on at the moment. And so we, as a metaphor, we are really paying down our technical debt at the moment. And yeah, and that's what I'm going to continue now. At the moment, I'm in our central cookbook, which is named after our hosting platform, Fries the Box. And I have a conflict here in my dependencies because there is a dependency for the open source Apache 2 cookbook, and something is requesting version 3.1, and the collectd cookbook requests something less than 5.2, and our own auxiliary Apache cookbook requests something around 5.2. So this is, of course, contradictory, and so I'll have to make a few changes here. First of all, I need to see why we request less than 5.2 in our collectd cookbook here. C++ and Python, how did you get to these two languages in particular? They're both great languages, but they are both, I guess, for pretty different use cases. I'm using Ruby, as you probably have already seen, and Python is at least on par with Ruby in terms of versatility and power. C++, of course, has other strengths, and so I'm just curious, what are you going to use these languages for? Okay, so we'll have to switch to the collect_d cookbook here. And I guess this means, yeah, well, I can use this issue 465. Let's update the master branch just to be sure we have everything, and then we can spin off a new branch that I'll prefix with the issue number, collect_d Apache. Server-side scripting, okay. C++ doesn't seem like a language that lends itself a lot for server-side scripting. I guess you'd rather use something like Ruby, Python, or as Viable Clan member said, C#, for example. Yeah, of course. As CGI, you can of course compile your script, your C++ program, and then run the binary as a CGI. That actually was a 90s thing, but even then we didn't use C++ much. I did use Perl as it was intended to be, because simply C++ having to compile for every change you make makes your change cycles so much longer. And with a dynamic language such as Perl or nowadays Ruby and Python, you'll be much flexibler. Economically, it's better to buy 10% more servers than having to cope with C++ rabbit hole. Yeah, you might be right there. I do remember that there were some people who wrote CGI in C or C++ for performance reasons, but with HTTP you are losing so much performance on the way to your script that your script's performance doesn't matter that much that it's worth it to get into a compiled language, I think. Yes, Python is very, very useful, and it's a mature language, and yeah, used by a lot of people, so it has a lot going for it. Yes, and even Java is, I guess, more common in server-side programming than C++ is. I think C++ has a bit of a renaissance for game development, but not sure about that. Okay, let's finally get started here. Collect_d, okay, I guess let's take a look at things. So, it actually says 520. And I wonder why that is. But first, let's get distracted a bit by our style issues here, and I'll replace my quotes, because we use double quotes by default. And I can also see that the metadata file here is missing a few things, so our food critic linter will complain later. So I guess I can at least enter two empty strings to prevent these complaints. yeah, using an object-oriented language makes a lot of sense, and both Python and Ruby are great at that. Everything I do, well, yeah, the Chef stuff not so much, because Chef uses Ruby behind the scenes and uses a DSL, a domain-specific language, at the front. So all these pseudo configuration statements here are in fact Ruby methods. So this is calling the version method and the supports method and the depends method behind the scenes. But for example, using Ruby on Rails, that's 100% object-oriented. Okay, so now I'll have to take a look at the Apache 2 cookbook to find out why 5.2.0 was such a critical version for my colleague that he decided to make it a constraint here. Apache 2 Chef cookbook. Here we go. See you later, script. So changelog. We have 5.0, 5.01, and then we have 5.2.0, and 5.2.0 drops Chef 12 support. Huh. Interesting. At danger, so I'm going to find the help us file. Don't think these are changes to be afraid of. Even 5.2.1 should be viable. V6 then made some major changes, so I guess we can change this to a pessimistic constraint for 5.2 without any problems. So what this should be instead is wait, 5.2.1. Do we have some kind of a test suite here? Yeah. No. Do we? Yeah, we do. Even though it's server spec. Oh, well, not. It's not much of a test suite, to be honest. But still, we can test if the cookbook converges with standard values. Why is it Apache 2, not Apache 5? Well, you have to ask the Apache team that, because we are only at Apache 2.4 at the moment. But as I can see, even here we are violating our own style defaults, so let's fix that. And I guess I can also get rid of the server spec stuff, because in-spec will work at least as well. So we can move this from test integration, default server spec, something into test integration default. We can remove the server spec directory. We can remove the spec helper. The stream would be clearer at 1080p, you're right. I've considered upping the resolution, but I thought including people that don't have the bandwidth for 1080p would be a good idea. I can, however, increase my font size a bit so that things get better. Are you referring to the terminal window over here? Or the editor over here, or both? Okay, so that's that. Let's see. Font sizes, okay. You are right, it's HD ready. I still have a TV here in my shelf that is HD ready. That doesn't do HD. That's not the reason why I'm running the stream on 720p, but I know that it's old, that it's an old standard. Okay, so we have we can get rid of the 1404 test suite. That's outdated anyway. Okay, and we also don't have a kitchen Docker YAML for our CI system, so this is still a bit outdated here. Let's simply try and run break test. Haha, okay, it's not even prepared. So we'll have to run cook style, which is the Ruby style guide, then food critic, which is the chef linter, and in the end we run test kitchen to run actual integration tests. Wait, why? Okay, no issue anymore. Chef and rancher. The only way to combine the two would be, I guess, using Chef to set up your rancher hosts, and then use whatever orchestration you get from your Docker-based setup. Because Chef inside of Docker has always been a kludge, I think. I remember GitLab, for example, shipping Docker containers, their omnibus Docker container, where you start the container and inside the container you have a Chef application that then starts setting up all kinds of services, the database and the GitLab API and everything else. But that's not how Docker is supposed to work. And yeah, that it took ages to get started. They basically use Docker as a image shipping method. Instead of shipping a VI image for VirtualBox or something, they ship the Docker container. But yeah, as I said, that's not how it's supposed to work. But yeah, getting your Kubernetes hosts or Rancher hosts or something like that set up with the Chef and maybe even Terraform in front, that does make sense. Definitely, you're doing it wrong. That's really... I can't imagine... I can't think of a good analogy from the top of my head, but... yeah, it's definitely not the standard use case. At the moment, we've been struggling with this issue ourselves, because at the moment we are still running a an infrastructure that uses well, our whole hosting infrastructure runs on bare metal servers. We lease hardware from our data centers and run our stuff on there. So setting them up with Chef was a no-brainer. And then over time we introduced LXC to run Linux containers. So the predecessor of Docker. And we are running Chef inside these LXC containers. We're using these containers as lightweight VMs, basically. But eventually we'll have to switch to something Docker-based to be more flexible and use our resources more efficiently. And I guess that will mean to scrap a lot of things. We can't continue what we're doing at the moment, because that would mean setting up whole service groups inside a Docker container, and no, I'm not going to do that. But it'll make switching from one architecture to the other quite an interesting ride. Okay, so now break test should work. If I insert this I here, prepare for lots of Robocop issues, yeah, because this cookbook hasn't been linted yet. So let's see, collect_d plugin seems to be an interesting place. First of all, we have to add the missing magic comment. That's easy to do because I can use the autocorrect option of Robocop for that. Which is frozen string little comment. That should fix these things. Boom. So let's see how much is left. Still 159 offenses, so okay. I guess that'll take a bit of work. But it looks like there's also a lot of repeating stuff. Okay, collect_d plugin. Wait, why is this still here? Okay, trading white space. Yeah, this cookbook has to be quite old as well, because it's still not using... Because it's still using Ruby 1.8 syntax or something like that. But still... Let's split here. Okay. Then same thing here. That's using the old chef syntax even. So it's service collect D. List is getting shorter. Good, and now we only have a line that is too long, which we can split. Okay, nice. Let's run the whole test suite again. Still 135 offenses, but we're down by 20, okay. Server.rb, not a lot of stuff, but important recipe, so let's fix that. Trailing white space should resolve by itself, because code will remove it. Then we have the different plugins here. Web UI seems to be an interesting recipe. And the pity is I don't think we are even using the collect D web UI. But anyway, we can simply switch. We can simply switch this to this. That should do the trick. Then a few double quotes here and there. Modes should always be expressed as octal numbers, not as strings. File permissions. Yeah, that's what technical debt looks like. I guess... that line is too long. Okay. WinXP now.sh. No, I haven't seen it yet. Okay. Nostalgia. Finamp. This is fun. And of course you can move the windows here. Oh, I just was about to ask, where's Minesweeper? Yeah, I'll have to admit that for a while I have been using Windows. There was a short era of Windows between OS 2 and I guess Linux again? I have been using Linux desktops for a few occasions, but in 2004, something like that, I got my first Mac, and I've been using Mac desktops ever since. Alright, so I guess we can simply run a test again. Yeah, I'm not really sure when I got that Mac Mini, but it must have been around that time, because I remember buying a MacBook Pro in 2006 or 7, around that time, so I must have gotten the Mac Mini before. That led me into the Apple ecosystem, as I would put it. Other people would say imprisonment. Okay. Plugin syslog, plugin MySQL. WebUI still has issues. Okay. Yeah, I'm not finished here, of course. Got completely sidetracked here by OpenXP website. This is still too long a line. Well, I guess I can drop the variable then and simply make the file join call a multi-line call. Oops, this was unintended. Done. Okay, let's start fixing these plugins. They're quick. Plugin syslog, probably. It's just training weight space. You can fix that by saving, I guess. Can't we? Hello. What's even going on here? Yeah. Then we have MySQL. Hash syntax again. And we should even change this into the string variant. And then there's the client recipe. Since recipes have the actual business logic, most of these style thingies will be inside of recipes. Wait, that's not even an issue here. Okay. Still over 100 offenses. Okay. Can we fix the trailing white space automatically? Apparently we can. Yep. So, more stuff with string literals. That should be auto-fixable as well. Nice. Down to 28. That should make things much quicker. Plugin postfix. So, Octo. Good. The default recipe, of course, needs a bit of TLC. We can get rid of this whole branch because we're not using Ubuntu 12 anymore. Wait, what? Okay, there's no PPA available, but the distribution itself has a proper package for that, so we can get rid of this whole thing here. Yeah, that's... Here we are missing an O. And many other places as well. At least they're not strings. By the way, that's maybe it's an interesting thing why Chef changed from this notation, where you basically call a method resources and have it look for the service named collectd and schedules a restart for that, into a string. The thing is, for this method to work, you must have predefined the service, otherwise you won't be able to look it up here, and that's not always the case. And you quickly get into hen versus egg issues, especially if you have cyclical dependencies here. So they changed that you simply refer to a string, and that basically gets stored and gets resolved later. It's the Slayer. Welcome. How you doing, mate? I hope you're studying. I hope you're busy, and I hope you're succeeding. How are things at this rather windy weekend here in Ireland? And that's supposed to be in square brackets. That's why I love VI. I can do this with a simple keyboard command. And yeah, I'm fine. Have a good time. I was able to get over my failed coding session on Thursday, and was able to find a very good solution for the issue I had and you'll be able to see it in the recording, because I've mentioned it or demonstrated it at the beginning of the stream. And I'll upload this recording to YouTube. You'll find it at youtube.fullstacksensei.com. I should have a command for that, and let's make sure I do. I don't. So I'll add a command. YT. So here's the link. A tree fell down. Oh, so you have trees lining your high street, and apparently you have the same stormy weather as we have. That's lucky that no one got hurt. A whole tree. Don't they maintain these trees? I think our county council would have cut the tree before it became a danger. They're cutting too many trees, I think, but at least they try and cut the trees that are sick or somehow a danger. Yeah, the HAL 9000 shirt. I had to get it. Actually, I got one years ago, and it got so bad from washing that I got this new one from Last Exit to Nowhere. And yeah, I love these fictional movie companies like HAL 9000 Logic Memory Systems. Illinois. Okay, what's going on here? Heavens, that's not code that we've written. That's, I think this is a forked cookbook, because I didn't know any better many years ago, and instead of building an application cookbook that simply included the third-party code, I actually took the code and forked it for my own purposes, and now I have to maintain it myself, which is idiotic. But yeah. Then we have use next to skip iteration. Okay, so I can simply say next unless autogen. Get rid of and simply can outdent this and get rid of one end. Of course you can ask a technical question, always. You're a channel VIP, you can ask any question you like, it doesn't have to be technical. Chrome's using half a gigabyte of RAM. Okay. Yeah, I think Chrome is well known for its memory consumption. That's I think that was one of the reasons why I returned to using Safari on my Mac. I don't have any recommendations to get your memory consumption down, though. apart from checking your extensions, which might be resource hogs, I think you'll simply have to take the bad with the good, I guess. So this block here is quite a clever solution to a problem that you always have with these system automation things. What do you do if you auto-generate configuration files from a list and then you take list elements off? Because now the system automation doesn't create them anymore, but it also doesn't delete them. They simply fall out of management. And that's what this block here is basically doing. It's a cleanup block where it goes through all the configuration files that are actually there and checks if they have a comment that says auto-generated. If that's the case, then it'll see if there is a resource, namely a template, for this file. And if that's not the case, and this exception gets raised, then it removes the file. Because if it's a formally auto-generated file that is not in our resource collection anymore, then it has to be removed. So I guess this comment would be better. Oh, it's at the right place, but it could be reworded. So let's rephrase this. If the file is managed by... no, had been auto-generated, but has no associated template, it has likely been removed. It has likely been, it must have been, it was, or it's not managed anymore. Or it can be removed. And let's always use proper naming that people can actually read. If you didn't have many extensions, I guess it doesn't make much of a difference. And you don't want to fiddle around unless you lose your search history. For many people it's quite the opposite. They would love to know how to delete their search history. Not that I'm referring to anyone in particular. Alright, no issues anymore. We should be almost done. 12. Carbon plugin. You don't want you to lose all your Linux sysadmin blog URL recommendations. And you are relying on your search history for that. You know that there's a thing named bookmarks. Okay, this is too long. So we could say line receiver host equals this. Yeah, I don't have too many bookmarks in my browser at all, only the most essential things that I really need on a daily basis. Everything else goes into pinboard.in. And there's tagging and searching and stuff there, and so that should sort me out, I guess. TF plugin. Okay. These are all strings, so yeah, it's actually a good idea to use this. Doesn't solve the problem though with the line. Yeah, okay. Good. Libraries default. Yeah, there's quite a few issues in there because that's also actual code. That's something that should not be a thing in 2019, where we have Git making a change and keeping the old stuff in a comment. Also, this is really not very readable, because I think the most interesting thing is the trailing condition here. If option is fixnum or option is actually true or false, Okay, yeah. So what they meant is this. Oh no, what did you do? Okay, that's something I don't know how this works. They probably wanted to say if it's a number or if it's an actual Boolean value, then we simply return it, else we turn it into a string, even into a quoted string. Okay, that's for formatting, I guess. And I'm so sorry for laughing, but rm-rf should always ring an alarm in your head. Even -r alone would so you wanted to remove file system and instead you removed file and space system. System doesn't exist though, so blank system shouldn't exist. And so was there a file directory? Because that's more or less file blank, which is the first argument, and then backspaced space, which means literal space system. And I don't think you have a space system folder on your disk. Okay, so I'm supposed to replace integer for fixnum. I'd like to learn what this means. Robocop lint unified integer. Yeah, that's what I got. That there is a file system folder, and you wanted to delete that. But since you let me open a new terminal so I can demonstrate what I mean. So you wrote rm file blank backspace blank system, and I think that's two arguments. That's a file followed by a normal blank, which ends the argument, and then you have this as an argument. Blank system. Do you have a backup? You always should have a backup. Not sure what operating system you're... Oh, you're using Windows. Windows could really use something like Time Machine on the Mac, where files get backed up continuously. Yeah, that's bad. Accidental deletions aren't fun. Carbon still has... Oh, I wanted to read what this is. So, fixnum bignum should always be checked as integer. Alright. Yeah, of course, you can always do install from scratch. But as you said, you didn't want to lose stuff, which you apparently now have. Oh god. Assignment, branch, condition, size, list. Yeah, this is a highly complex method here. But I actually don't want to refactor other people's stuff here. So I'll actually go ahead and disable this RuboComp. Disable metrics / ABC size. Line too long, I can. Oh dear, okay. Heavens. What did they do here? Indent key. Name. I wonder if a here doc wouldn't be the better option here. But I guess whatever works. You didn't lose anything. Yeah, because your RM command didn't look that dangerous to me, because as I said, it should have tried to delete a file directory and a space system directory, both of which probably didn't exist anyway. Okay, we've gone through RuboCop here. So I guess it's time to commit this stuff. Let's start by right. Oh. Yeah, that's that. Do we have anything more with tests? No. So we can so now I guess we could kitchen YAML file, the rake file. Oh, wait. File \/ system is the name of the folder. Okay, that's a strange way that Windows names files, I guess. I parsed that in my mind and said, okay, that's of course a directory named file blank system, but on a command line you have to escape the blank so it stays a single argument. But if that's the actual file name, yeah. But if you've inserted a space in there, that shouldn't have made much damage. Because the resulting names, file and \ and system, shouldn't exist anyway. That's what I meant. Okay, so this is this, and everything else, I think, well, metadata is... Metadata is important because we've changed the Apache 2 dependency. So I'll commit that separately. It's a good thing to always make sensible commits that actually tell a single story. In this case, I bump or change Apache 2 dependency. Or we could say, well, dependency. Everything else is style fixes. Nice. Okay, now break test will pass Rubocop and fail with Food Critic. You had an idea for my next project, as if I would need another project. I'll be busy with that cookbook stuff for months, I guess. But go ahead. What idea did you have? Oh, and you found that Gmail lets your memory footprint explode. Well, that's not really a surprise, yeah. I've heard a lot of people complaining about the footprint of Google Mail because that's a whole application in your browser. And with application, I mean lots of business logic, lots of JavaScript and stuff. A Git hook that auto-generates commit messages based on the commit. What do you mean based on the commit? I mean, there's already a lot of metadata in each commit, and not sure what the hook would add. Consider extracting long Ruby block to library. Yes, I can consider that. Consider converting definition to a custom resource. Ensure issues URL is set in metadata, and it's actually not. Okay. Yeah, we should do that. Interesting. I don't remember it complaining about it being defined as a empty string, but yeah, of course, it should be included. So, that's the issues URL. And the collect D cookbook is at source collect D. You're missing a license file. And it's not shared. Okay, that's something we can disable. So what can we disable? We can get rid of FCO14. I'm not going to extract this Ruby block to a library because I rather would like to ditch the cookbook altogether. The same goes for the FCO15. FCO69. '71 and '78. Okay, so what's left is issues URL is set in metadata, issues underscore URL. Oh, there's a typo, that's why it complained. And chef version, yeah, chef version should be defined in here. Namely chef version. (1312) or above. Okay, so you mean that it gets some context out of the set of files you've edited. If you've made changes to CSS, yeah, it's style changes, or if you. But yeah, it's. I guess it's really hard to derive something of value from only the set of files that were edited. Take my changes earlier when I simply fixed white space issues. Okay, we've passed Food Critic and now we're going into Test Kitchen where the cookbook is actually executed. And I hope that it works because, well, I expect it to work because we are using it in production. But you never know. I'm not a fan of automating Git commits because getting Git commits right really takes work. Takes thinking what to include in the commit and what not, and then of course there's always the commit message that should actually explain why you made the changes, not which changes you made. That's easy to see from the commits metadata. Well, I've changed these three files, or I've added these 3 files. So having a commit message saying added 3 CSS files doesn't add any value whatsoever over what Git stores anyway. So having an explanation why these CSS files had to be added, or what your motivation was to split one file into 3 or something like that, that's what should be in the commit message, and I don't think that's something you can automate. Okay, it did not work. Interesting. Wait. Okay. Chef client actually finished converging. Okay, yeah. I forgot to remove the require spec helper. That's not necessary anymore. And it doesn't work anymore because I've actually deleted the file. So we can run another. I guess there's only one test suite anyway, right? So we can run verify on this. Yep, and the tests pass because they are totally trivial. But still, I'll run another rake test here, just to be sure that everything works from scratch. And okay, so what did we do? I'll have to git add metadata and .footcritic. I'll call this food critic cleanup. And then I'll have a commit fix test include. And I'll rebase this change into my test commit from earlier. There should be here the setup tests commit, and I'll rebase this commit into this one after the tests have all run, because I don't want to confuse the running test suite. I don't like this music. You know what? I change the station from chill to synthwave. Okay, so I guess assuming that this will succeed, all I have to do is do a version bump to. Did we make any substantial changes to the logic? We did not. And it's meant to already run with Chef 13, right? No, it does not. I assumed this already had been ported to Chef 13. If that's not the case, because Chef 13 isn't mentioned anywhere, and this earlier change from March still talks about Chef 12, and that explains why we actually had a constraint for the Apache 2 cookbook in the first place. This means that we are making breaking changes here. This isn't too long, so I can actually fix this to our current. Way of writing stuff. Not sure what this refers to. Oh, that's actually no idea. Okay, not a problem. Okay. And tests actually worked. Okay. So now I'd like to find out if I duplicated work here, because I think this cookbook already is included in stuff that runs with Chef 13, and well, we can find out by okay. Maybe this cookbook works with both versions of Chef. That should be easy to find out, because if I do chef exec knife cookbook show collect D, I can see that 3.1.3 is the latest version of on our chef server, and that's actually the one from May. Okay. So I guess that's already that's it. So I'm already actually making a breaking change here. Good. And that means we need to update metadata RB as well. Version 4. And as promised, I need to rebase my history a bit. I'll move the test fix up here and mark it as a fix up, so it gets automatically squashed with the previous one. And this makes our history easy to read. First we convert tests to inspec, we set up tests. Oh, that could be even merged to the previous one, right? What does setup tests mean anyway? Let's take a look at the A7 commit. Wait, that's the setup test. And the 7.5 only renamed stuff. Okay, yeah, we can actually rebase them into a single one. So we'll make this a fix-up one, and we'll rewrite this one. We'll name this cleanup test. Sweet. Migrate from server spec to inspec. Update break file. Test to 16 only. Okay, cleanup test suite, change Apache to dependency, style fixes, food critic cleanup, bump version. That should do the trick. So I push this to our repository. Our CI system should kick in and do another test. And that should give me the foundation to make a merge request. Update collect the cookbook to chef 13. Yeah, switch from chef 12 to chef 13. Also dropping support for Ubuntu less than 16, since this allowed us to relax the version constraint on Apache 2. This also closes 465. Assign to me. Spark and chef version. Yep, that's okay. We can delete the source branch. And we can squash the commits. That's not squash commits because I've just noticed recently that squash commits will use the first commit, and the first commit doesn't always describe the whole change. since it's only the first commit. And yeah, how... Scratch commits message will be either taken from the first multi-line commit message in the merge or the merge request's title if no multi-line commit message is found. I do have a multi-line commit message. It can be customized before merging a request, so I can enter a squash commit message. That's a good idea. How do I do that? Ah, modify commit messages. Cool. So we'll rename this to Chef 13. The updated rake file isn't too interesting here. Hey, Quantum Data Ninja, that's an awesome name, by the way. Yeah, I'm cooking Collect D at the moment. In general, I'm updating our chef cookbooks to Chef 13, if you can believe that, with Chef 15 now being released. But yeah, that's technical debt for you. And yeah, I'm just wrapping up my change here. Microphone. That's only a side thing, so I'll move that. Well, I can. I guess that's enough. Oh, wait, what? Does this get stored? I can only assume that this gets stored, but we can easily find out by reloading the page. Oh, it does. Nice. I'm so used to submit buttons that I sometimes doubt that things will be persisted. Alrighty, and our pipeline did not succeed. I wonder why. I guess it's... Oh yeah, I know why. We don't have a Docker setup included. That's missing as well, so our CI system can't run the tests. That should be easy because I can simply copy one from another cookbook, and I'll probably take the rolls cookbook because that's pretty recent. Let's see. Docker, that's all not very cookbook specific, so that's perfect. And Docker config for CI. Alrighty, and we have a new pipeline. Coding yourself. What you do in Quantum Data Ninja? I'm about to wrap this stream up anyway. Building a store, e-commerce. Building it yourself. There should be lots of pre-built things out there, aren't there? But yeah, doing it yourself gives you all the freedom you need. It does give you a lot of work as well, but yeah. Well, while this test is running, I can actually go into talk mode. Oh, okay, so you're trying to sell these smart bracelets. Smart bracelets are interesting things. I'm using an Apple Watch, and it really does a lot of things. And having something less geeky and with a bit more, how do you call it? It's a bit more, something more fashionable, like a bracelet, could be a good alternative. What brought you to smart bracelets? But yeah, I don't want to hold you up. If you'd like to go building your shop, go ahead. I'll let this test finish by itself anyway, and this is a good point to wrap the stream up. I've actually finished something I've released, or not released, but got another cookbook ready for release, and I can resume work on the other cookbook that is depending on this one. So I'm pretty happy with the outcome of today. And I just saw the test in CI getting green, and so yeah, I'm a happy camper. If you'd like to watch a recording of this session, I'll upload it to YouTube. You can find it tomorrow on youtube.fullstacksensei.com. I'll post the URL to the chat as well. If you'd like to get notified when I start another session, please follow the stream if you don't do that already. And also follow my Twitter account @gvis, where I'm going to announce when I'm going online the next time. I think that's it. And yeah, so everyone, thank you for watching, and have a great weekend. I'll see you next week, probably on Thursday. Until then, take care.